Hey, what is up there, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of The Evolve. How you guys doing on today? You know what? Someone told me about this video. They're like, hey, since you've been getting on Benzino, can you do a reaction? Recently, Dave Mays, the owner and founder of the Source magazine, he did a interview and he talked about the racist tapes, and he added a little bit more detail, I was told. And he talks a little bit more about that. I want to hear what he has to say. Him and Benzino, they were partners. So we're going to take a listen to this. Now, you're going to see me. Guys, just listen. Just listen to the audio. You're going to see me kind of in the way. Don't be like, yo, we can't even see the TV. Honestly, because of copyright, the algorithm don't really pick up the audio code if it's like coming from a TV, and if you like the visual don't pick it up if you kind of like put stuff in between. So it's more meant for you to hear it and every now and then probably get a glance. But this is all for trying not to get copyright, trying to beat the system. But anyway, let's just get right to it.
One of the stories that is more commonly known about the Source coming down is Ray Benzino going back and forth with a flurry of diss tapes against Eminem, and then the Source releasing, which is now, commonly referred to as the racist tapes by Eminem. Looking back, you guys releasing those racist tapes as a publication, it damaged your credibility, but it also created enemies with some of the most powerful people in hip-hop. If you have problems with Eminem, obviously, you have problems with Dr. Dre. You have problems with Snoop Dogg, Jimmy Iovine, Interscope Records. At one point, you guys had an avalanche of problems coming down the hill at you. Do you look at this and say to yourself, well, if this was today, I would do things different. Maybe I would give those tapes to another publication, because Benzino being a partner in the most credible publication representing hip hop and an artist going back and forth with another artist, that's just a conflict of interest by itself. And then to release those tapes, now you're making enemies out of some of the biggest names in hip-hop. So it puts everything that you work for in the Source in jeopardy. Would you make that same decision now?
Yeah, well, first of all...
Okay, let's stop right there real quick. Before he answered that monologue, he is long-winded. How you gonna spend 3 minutes... How you gonna scold the interviewee in a 3-minute monologue? And what is the question? Nigga, I couldn't wait for him to get to the question. Look, he scolded him. The interviewer must be a stan. I'm 100% sure he's a stan. Okay, let's see how he answered this. My first statement was like, nigga, what was the question? Can I talk now? Now I go? Let's go.
Like you said, this is something that may be more popularly known and talked about through the media over the years, as opposed to the stuff I just broke down that was all real and was all much more of a factor. The fact of the matter is, yeah, Interscope pulled all their advertising. But in those years, record company advertising was a fraction of our revenue. In the early days, it was all our revenue. But by then, we had Ford and McDonald's and Coca-Cola. We had everybody advertising in the Source in 2000s. So Interscope pulling out their advertising didn't have any impact on the company financially. And the narrative that's been pushed when that whole thing unfolded,
Okay. That's the equivalent of him saying, hey, I don't need you anyway. I'm still good. I can do bad all by myself. I don't need you. He trying to brush it off. We didn't need that Interscope. Yo, Dr. Dre and all them, they pulled. We good anyway. We had McDonald's. That's what. I get it.
So I want to clear that up first.
Okay.
So, I never felt like financially it was going to be an issue.
Okay. Move on. Okay, you say what you said.
I think with the Eminem situation,
Here we go.
it started because Benzino felt when the movie 8 Mile came out. And let me back up and say this. The Source discovered Eminem. Okay, the Source had Eminem in Unsigned Hype. Eminem is the first white person ever on the cover of the Source. Eminem wins Lyricist of the Year at the Source Awards in '99 over some heavy competition.
I just want to repeat something he said. The Source discovered Eminem. We were on Eminem's side. We loved Eminem. We made him Lyricist of the Year. We was the first white boy we put on. Did he say cover? He was the first white boy we discovered. We made him. We love that dude. It wasn't too much mayonnaise for me. We put that white guy on our cover. We didn't have a problem with him. But before he said that, he was like, Benzino had a problem, but then he stopped. And he was like, no, but first let me say, we loved them. Benzino, let's move on. I want y'all to catch this. What's going on here?
Helped launch Eminem's career, and we supported Eminem for those first few years. Mm-hmm. But by 2002, I think, is when 8 Mile is coming out.
Okay.
And this is when the media goes into kind of overdrive, the mainstream media, and it's like, Eminem is the king of hip hop. He's the greatest to ever do it. They're just, going crazy with.
So, and this ad came in at a perfect time. So, So what you're telling me, it was jealousy. Yo, 8 Mile came out and the media, it was just Eminem this, Eminem that. So y'all were all good with him, but then people start hyping him up, and so it was jealousy. That's the prime definition of jealousy, my guy. Let's see what he has to say. All right, so they got mad. So this is interesting. They got mad because Eminem was being pushed. All right, let's go.
The way they're portraying him. And I think that, rubbed Benzino the wrong way. And I think it had him thinking like, this could be bad for hip hop. That just like Elvis was used to change the trajectory of rock and roll music and cut out black folks, and then you're seeing, remember, again, what I was just talking about, all these black-owned companies being targeted and wiped out. These are companies, these Rough Riders, these Rockefellers, these No Limits and Cash Moneys. They got, dozens, if not hundreds of employees that they have on payroll, guys, many of whom just got home from jail and wouldn't have gotten a job anywhere else. I mean, they were really impacting people's lives and communities and families that have been dealing with, generational poverty forever. And these black companies that were flourishing in the late 90s, did a lot to begin to try to turn some of that around.
That's right.
But you blink, and by 2004, they're gone. If they exist, they're just an imprint where you have one person up at Interscope that's in charge of Bad Boy or whatever, but there's no big offices and 50 people on staff anymore, any of that stuff. All that gets wiped out. And again, that's partly from the FBI, that's partly the music industry kind of using the internet and its impact on sales as a kind of excuse or rationale to wipe these companies out.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Okay, he says some real stuff there. I'm gonna give him credit right with that. You know, a lot of these black-owned companies and these record labels, and you know, especially in the late '90s, you know, just like he said, you know, a lot of African Americans, but not just African Americans, a lot of Mexicans, but mainly African Americans, you know, these black-owned companies, they would hire. I mean, them were some of the only jobs. I mean, they did have tons of people on staff, and these black-owned companies, they did provide a lot of jobs and new generational wealth that probably wasn't there because of criminal records and whatnot. So that part, I mean, he said some real stuff. He said that it was all that got changed because of the FBI and politics. A lot of it is just a change in time. I mean, business structure. A lot of these black-owned companies, they sold out. They sold out because of the wealth, and they haven't had wealth before. So when but the thing is, I stopped there because he blamed he's like you said, the FBI and the computer. Is a lot of it was just the times, and it's just business. Like we were moving into always trying to make sure you don't operate in the red, and how you can generate and your company can generate more wealth. And when you got computers, and when you don't need man hands on, then that happens. But at the end of the day, what does that have to do with your hate towards him? What does that all have to do? Moving on,
etc. So we're in the midst of all that, and then this Eminem thing is going crazy. So I think he just got.
So he said all that to say that, hey, we had a lot on our back already, and then Eminem thing. What Eminem thing? Y'all made that Eminem a thing because, like you just said, it was because of the media was pushing him. Because that's the only thing that Eminem did was rap really good and sell a lot of records, and the media start pushing him. And like you said, the problem came because of 8 Mile. He started getting all this hype. Eminem did nothing at this point. I want y'all to listen so far. Follow his timeline. At no point has Eminem done anything. They're mad at the media. They're mad at the media hyping him up. Still, Eminem has not said that I'm the rap god. I'm the man. I'm the king of hip hop. They mad because of the media right now. That's all he has said so far, judging by the timeline. Let's go.
He saw that and he just felt like this is bad, and he made like a diss on a mixtape, a little 8-line diss, nothing on a mixtape that hardly went out anywhere. In a matter of weeks after the mixtape got put out, we start getting phone calls. Eminem's in the studio. He's already made 3 records dissing The Source and dissing Dave and dissing Benzino, and you know they're going crazy, whatever. And
so let's go through this timeline. The timeline from the owner of The Source was, we loved Eminem, we supported him. Eminem start getting hype, and 8 Mile came out. The media start pushing them, and they start praising them way too much. We didn't like it. Now, Benzino, he put out an 8-bar diss track on Eminem. And then we get calls that Eminem is responding, and he already has made 3. So, y'all threw the first rock, and then Eminem came in with a cannon and knocked your whole house down, is what I hear. Just taking y'all through the timeline of what he's saying.
You know, what I will say is I think, you know, it became personal, and it wasn't, you know.
Okay, so it was personal. You admitted that. Let's go on.
It wasn't meant to be personal. The issue was not about Eminem per se at the time, because when it starts, those racist tapes don't exist. Nobody knows about those.
Nobody even knows.
Nobody knows about those.
Nobody even know. There wasn't even no racist tape. Y'all just started the 8-bar diss track because of the media. It was personal. Y'all didn't even have any racist tape. I like what he's saying. He don't even understand what he's saying. He's basically admitting to everything. Yo, we started this. We were mad. We were jealous. They were saying that he was the king of hip hop, and they were hyping this white boy up, and that wasn't good for hip hop. This white boy was going to take over. Let me just say, I'm a massive Eminem fan. And he is at the top of my list, #1 favorite rapper of all time. That's just my list. That's me. But let me tell y'all this. This time period that he's talking about, this whole media talking about Eminem is the big hype and the king of hip hop. That wasn't happening back then. Black artists, black hip hop was at its best in 2000, 2001, 2000. I mean, I'm going to tell you, yeah, Eminem was doing his thing, but nobody, not even me, was saying Eminem is the greatest of all time. He's the king of hip hop. We had Ludacris going crazy. We had Snoop Dogg. That was Jay-Z. We had everybody. Even Ja Rule was killing it. Black artists was at his best. T.I., you can have whatever you like. Cameron, DMX, all these people, they were going crazy. They even released an album, maybe in like 2002. This just wasn't happening. I'm sorry. This time period, it just not. Stop that. I could get demonetized for doing this on the video. But anyway, I'm just telling you. 2000 to 2005, everybody was doing their thing. Black artists. You had Teddy Payne. T-Pain was going crazy. Like nobody could miss. Black artists just could not miss. It was insane, man. Yeah, Eminem was doing his thing, and around, I think, what was he on? 2000, 2002, 2008. He was probably on the Eminem Show by that time, that album, the Eminem Show. Great, but I'm telling you, that was at the peak. This is cap.
Those only surface a year down the line after the back and forth. You know, Eminem comes out with songs dissing the Source. Benzino makes songs and videos dissing Eminem and going back and forth, and you know, the magazine kind of, you know,
took a hit,
reports on this stuff, and you know, probably obviously took our side. So I think it getting personal wasn't the right way to handle it, at least through the pages of the magazine.
What is this guy doing? Yo, it wasn't personal, but it got personal, and it's personal. Just let it go, dude. Stop.
But I always felt like, you know, we were doing this for other reasons. Like we were trying to get a point about other things that ended up, you know, kind of getting lost. And then a year down the line.
Stop this. Stop this. And stop this. We were doing it for other reasons. Oh, we were doing it for the culture. Y'all know I hate that crap. Stop telling me you're doing it for the culture. What do you trying to expose and get a vendetta? What would you trying to tear down Eminem do for the culture? You were doing that for Benzino. This guy went to Harvard. Terrible business decision allowing Benzino to come in and destroy and tear down the credibility of what you built. This is whose fault it is, right here.
And, you know, these 3 white kids from Detroit drive from Detroit and show up in my lobby. And they're sitting out there for a couple hours, you know, and waiting to try to get to see me. And finally, I get the message, and I bring them in, and they play me some of this music, the racist rap hour, you know, that Eminem and his group at the time, you know, those 3 other white guys had made this whole tape with a lot of racist stuff on it. And, you know, of course, that was shocking.
I've heard it called that by racist rap hour. I just have a hard time believing. Maybe they did. Like, this whole album never came out. apparently 50,000 copies, and it's nowhere in the world. It's been wiped from the world. The world. No one's heard of this but Benzino and them. And apparently it was called the Racist Rap Hour. They named their album, their mixtape, Racist Rap Hour. That's what I'm just saying. I believe they gave him that name.
Here, so I mean, at that point, we had an obligation to, as a magazine, as a journalistic, entity, to report about that and put it out there. There was some negotiations behind the scenes with Interscope trying to shut it down and trying to get us not to put them out and bury them so nobody would know about it. But those didn't go anywhere, and we published the information. They sued us to try to stop us from putting it out in federal court, and we won a landmark copyright ruling where the judge allowed us to put out only a very small portion of the tape under what's called fair use law. But so a lot of the stuff that was on that tape never got out.
Ever.
And so on. So, in retrospect, I think it got personal, and I shouldn't have allowed the magazine to at least give an appearance of taking, a personal kind of agenda. This is the thing that I was talking about earlier that I didn't like that was happening at the source years before.
All right, that's it for that. So basically, he was saying he's trying to take a little bit of accountability at the end, but he's like, but then he goes back and say, hey, I had a obligation to do it. You didn't. At the end of the day, let me just say this. If I were to speak with if Dave Mays was watching this, and I would end with this, I would say this. Dave Mays, the Source magazine. See, you guys have a reputation, and you had decided you had left a mark, and you had established that if we don't like you, if you do something, if we have a personal vendetta, then we would use every word, every inch, every page, every paragraph, every page of our magazine to tear you down, to demoralize you and rip your character. But what you did not expect is that the whites, the blacks, the Caucasians, and everybody inside the culture of hip hop, blacks and whites, you didn't expect them to take hold of the impression that we are looking for the source for insight and recommendation for hip hop, and to introduce new hip hop, not to tell us who and what is hip hop. You started to try to dictate that. And when you start telling people who and what they should be, and who is and who deserving, then you are entering people's personal space, people's personal objective space. And when you get in that space, people start getting triggered and offended. People ain't gonna be with you. Lesson learned, maybe. Well, I'd like to know what you all think in the comments. As always, hey, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I will see y'all in the very next video.